Welcome to the Crafty Mini. Now on this one, this is a video answer to a question I got. Now there's a post up on the channel, and basically me, Welsh and Goblins and Aliens are going to be doing a Q&A podcast soon. Next couple of weeks we'll be recording it. And one of the questions was, it's not actually something I could just describe, so I thought what I'd do is I'd actually put it into video form. And it was basically like, what's my process, for picking a miniature, the colours and all this sort of stuff before doing an actual video. And then what I thought is I'd actually show the process itself. I won't go too much into like what I'm using for colours and things like that. It's more just how I go about picking the project that I'm going to put up on a video. Now sometimes it's quite easy. It'll be something that I'm just working on, like my army painting video I did a few weeks ago, or it'll be a random miniature I've just bought. I'm like, okay, I'm going to paint that. But sometimes, so for this one in particular, at the moment Welsh has challenged everyone in his Discord to do basically like a mini diorama on a size no bigger than sort of like a beer mat. And that's what I've been working on. Now I've got it built. I'm getting to the point where I'm painting it. But I was getting a bit stuck, and I thought, right, I'll crack out this little miniature here that you see on the screen, and I'm going to just practice some stuff, some ideas of colour themes I've got for the skin and whatnot, and maybe a little bit of like non-metallic metal, have a small punt at it, and just see how it looks, and use this as my sort of working out. The nice thing with doing this is with a miniature, you just strip the paint off when you're done, and you've got a blank canvas to go again. So the main sort of focus of this was I was trying to get an idea of how doing this sort of like sickly flesh, which I've done in the past, but it was a bit too bright, and it's almost popped a bit too much on the previous way that I do it. So I thought let's try something else here with greens and a skin tone mixed in to sort of desaturate it a little bit and make it pop and things. And then that's the idea behind this miniature. So in the background you're going to see me painting this various steps. Adding more and more things on. I'll briefly touch on some of the stuff as it goes along, anything that I find important, but the main thing is to show you my working out. So I will go and get a miniature. It could be any type. Usually it's something it's sort of aligned in theme. So if I'm painting a sci-fi miniature, I'll get a practice sci-fi miniature to paint on anything that if I feel like I need to work things out, colours and whatnot. And same with the fantasy and so on. So the project I'm working for Welsh's challenge is going to be a fantasy miniature, using something that I bought when me and him went to Warhammer World. But yeah, as I say, so it was the flesh was the main thing. I want it to feel alive, but really like mucky and diseased. So I'm using this miniature here because it's quite the character's quite gaunt. You got a lot of the rib cage showing. Looked quite sickly and ill, and I thought it'd be a nice little way to go in and practice that. So you can see there the skin tone. So I've started off with that green, added the flesh tone to it, Caucasian flesh tone, and just built up more and more into the mix. And you've still got some of that green showing through, and it's quite a nice effect. I do change it slightly for the project I'm working on for, as I say, for Welsh, but it turned out not too bad. One of the other things I sort of decided to give a go on this one is some sort of quasi non-metallic metal. It's something I've never really tried. I like the idea of it, and when I've dabbled in the past, a long time ago, it didn't really work out. But I thought on this one, while I'm here, because I'm painting this very loose, like the cloth around his belt and all the little bits and things you'll see later on in the video, I'm just chucking paint on. There's no really sort of rhyme or reason to what I'm doing, but I thought I'd give it a go anyway. So for the crosses, because I want some of them gold, I'm going to start with this nice yellow colour, this sort of ochre yellow, and just go from there and just try my hand at some form of non-metallic metal. It was okay. I think the cross on the sword turned out pretty good at the end. Some of the other bits just didn't look that good. And it's something it's one of those skills I do practice, and I'm gonna practice a bit more of now as well in between videos, because I'd like to do some sort of miniature with some proper non-metallic metal on there, because I think as I mentioned, when it's done well, I think it looks amazing. I've seen people who've even done like curved plate plate pieces on like chest armor, and they've even gone in and done the reflections from the grass on the ground and stuff. Absolutely phenomenal. and I'm always trying to not necessarily push myself, but just trying to learn new things as well. So it's something I'm definitely going to keep practicing with, because I pushed those of you who've probably seen the video now, the OSL videos I've done. I pushed myself with that, and I'm really happy with how they came out. The first one was a little bit haphazard, but yeah, they came out good overall. So this is something else that I'm just practicing on this miniature, not for any reason. This is nothing to do with the project that I'm working for Welsh's Discord. That's purely the skin tone that I was practicing, but this is just something else, and it's nice to do if you got a little miniature that you don't really know what you're going to do, anything with it or whatnot. Just keep it and practice stuff on it. And another little addendum I'll add here as well. I think if you're going to go down this route and have a miniature that you practice with, or a couple of them, depending on like theme or whatnot, fantasy, sci-fi, and all that sort of stuff, go for something with some really interesting shapes and sort of sculpts as well. So like here on this sort of fabric skirt thing he's got on, as you can see, I'm not paying too much attention to all the little wrinkles and things, but it's interesting enough that I'm just picking out some of the areas. And also on this particular miniature, he's the actual physical structure of this human, like he's it's almost like an Iggy Pop sort of build, so really like muscular but very sinewy and thin. There's like lots of different details in the face and the jaw into the neck. You can see like parts of his shoulder bone on his back and things like that. And it's just a bit more fun to paint because you've got a bit more nuance, more shapes and things that you've got to pick out and sort of spend a bit more time on, as opposed to just like a big thick back of a standard human who's just muscular or whatever. It's always good to have a few different minis in your repertoire just so you can go and practice on. An upside to doing this as well is you don't have to be that neat either, which I find, for me personally, I find quite liberating, quite enjoyable painting, and just chucking it on, a bit haphazard, not worrying too much about amazing blends and super duper highlights, but you're just working on contrast of colours. So like as I say, it's not the best non-metallic metal, but you can see the gold there really pops out. Maybe should have used it a bit more sparse, maybe just the chalice, the cross on the sword, and the one on his like little rosary, and not really elsewhere. But it adds a lot more visual interest next to this really like sickly skin and this just torn, tattered bit of cloth that's hanging around his waist. And it's something nice to try, and painting a bit freer, because I think sometimes we can get boxed in with, it's got to paint it the best way I absolutely can, or it's got to look like the box art or whatever. And having a test piece and just playing around with stuff, it's really fun. This is what I used for my Death Guard army. I did a practice piece, really went to town trying different things and different styles, and going back to that army painting video, when they're all together, it looks really good. Individually, the paint job's not the best. It's quite messy, a bit like this, a bit more free flowing. But overall, when they're together, they look like a contiguous army that all belong to the same sort of unit, lore, and all that. So yeah, go and practice. This is something that I do behind the scenes. So thank you for the question. The other questions we'll be answering on the actual podcast when we record it in the next couple of weeks. But I thought it'd just be nice so you could actually physically see my working out and the things that I try. Like here, this is a weird little one, so I've got extremely thin down light green paint, and I'm popping it on so it goes in the recesses and just seeing how it dries. And maybe I can use this with different colours and things in the future, just to add a bit more depth and interest. And here's the finished piece. So yes, overall, I'm not too critical about this, because I say it was purely a practice model. The flesh tones sort of worked. I did thin the paints a bit more and get more of a balanced sort of tone to it and mix, which you'll see in a second when he's next to the actual piece I'm doing for the challenge. The non-metallic metal, not bad. I think if I spend a bit more time, watch a few more tutorials, I could probably get this down. It sort of worked on the gold. The silver, it hasn't. I've got to refigure the recipe on that one. But yeah, I think it's good to do. Have something that you can just practice on, have a play with, and just try new things. And then, if, as I say, worst case, you just strip it and come again. There you go. That's the skin tone I'm sort of playing with for the horse. The three little Nurgle button things I'm going to do something different with. But you can see I've blended it a bit more, so less of the green showing, but it's got that sort of sickly hue and that patchy sort of disease sort of skin look to it. And it was a good little test for the actual upcoming project. But thank you very much for watching, and hope to see you all on the next video. Cheers.